The sun burned high in the orange sky. The air was dry and full of dust. Nothing moved except the wind and one lonely figure walking across the desert. Her name was Nira. She was young, maybe 20 years old in Earth years, but her face looked older. Her skin, once smooth and shining with color, had now turned dry and pale. Her lips were cracked. Her eyes were tired. Still, she kept walking. Step after step through the endless sand dunes, the planet Varela had once been beautiful. It had forests, lakes, and rivers. That was many years ago, before the skies stopped raining and the oceans turned to dust. Now, water was the rarest thing in the world. The rich lived in hidden cities with water tanks underground. The poor, they walked, they begged, they traded everything they had for just a single cup. Nira carried a small pouch. Inside it was her last treasure, a glowing blue crystal. It was a gift from her mother before she died. "Never trade this," her mother had said. "It holds your past." But her mother didn't know how hard life would become. Now, Nira was ready to give it up, just for water. She stopped at a flat rock and sat down. The sun was too hot. Her legs hurt. Her throat felt like fire. She opened the pouch and looked at the crystal. It was beautiful, even in this dead land. But she didn't feel anything anymore. Beauty couldn't save her. Only water could. A soft humming sound came from the sky. Nira looked up. At first she thought it was a dream. But then the sound grew louder. A ship, silver and smooth, was flying above the desert. She had never seen a ship like that. It didn't look like the trader ships or the waterlord's guards. It was different. Sleek, quiet, clean. The ship slowed down and hovered in the air. A soft beam of light touched the ground near her. Then the ship landed. Nira grabbed the crystal and hid behind the rock. Her heart beat fast. Was it safe? Was it a trap? She didn't know. But something deep inside told her this was not like the others. A door opened and a man stepped out. He looked nothing like her people. He was tall, with short brown hair and strange clothing. His skin was smooth and lighter. His eyes scanned the desert until they stopped on her. He raised a hand. "Hello," he said, in a voice she could somehow understand. It was strange, but gentle. Nira didn't speak. She stepped out slowly and held out the crystal in her hand. "I will trade this," she said, her voice weak and dry. "Please, water." The man looked at the crystal, then at her, then at the land around them. He didn't smile or laugh. He didn't ask questions. Instead, he reached into a small pack and pulled out a silver bottle. He walked forward and placed it on the ground between them. "For you," he said. Nira stared at it. What do you want in return?" "Nothing," the man said. "You need it, that's enough." She didn't move at first. She thought maybe it was a trick. No one gave water for free, not on Varela. But the man stepped back and waited. He didn't reach for the crystal. He didn't speak again. With shaking hands, Nira picked up the bottle. She opened the cap and sniffed. It was water, real water. Cold and clean. She drank. It felt like life itself was flowing back into her. Every drop cooled her burning throat and brought tears to her eyes. She stopped halfway through, saving the rest. Then she looked at the man. "Why?" she asked. The man shrugged. "Because you needed it. My name is Daniel. I'm from Earth." "Earth?" Nira had heard stories. A planet full of blue oceans and green trees. But she thought it was just a myth. "Why are you here?" Daniel smiled slightly. "Exploring, searching for lost worlds. And maybe helping if I can?" Nira stepped closer. She held out the crystal again. "Take it, it's all I have." Daniel shook his head. "Keep it. You might need it more than I do." Nira couldn't believe it. No one had ever refused a trade on Varela. Everyone wanted something. But this human had just given her water without asking for anything. Behind them, the desert stretched out like a dead sea. But in that moment, something felt different. A strange feeling filled her chest. Hope. Daniel looked around. "This planet, it's dying," Nira nodded. "Yes, it's been dying for years. Do your people have any machines, water collectors? Filters?" She shook her head. "Only the water lords. They keep them hidden. They sell water at high prices. They Rule everything now. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he looked back at his ship. I have a small purifier. It pulls water from the air. Not much, but enough for a few people. Nira's eyes widened. You can make water? Yes, would you like to see it? She didn't answer with words. She nodded fast and followed him toward the ship. As the door closed behind her, she felt cool air on her face. The inside of the ship was strange, full of lights and screens. But it was clean, safe. Daniel walked to a corner and opened a metal case. Inside was a small machine. He placed it outside on the sand and pressed a few buttons. After a few seconds, drops of water formed on its sides. Then they rolled into a small container. Nira watched in silence. It's like magic, Daniel smiled. No, just science. Ken, you give it to my village? If I help you carry it? Yes. But there's one condition, she tensed. A trade? No, he said. Promise me. You'll use it to help others? Not to become like the water lords. She nodded slowly. I promise. The sun was still burning. The sand was still hot, but something had changed. Nira was no longer just a girl begging for water. She was now the one who carried hope back to her people. And all because a human gave. Without asking. The desert stretched far and wide, but now Nira didn't feel alone anymore. The strange human named Daniel had given her more than water. He had given her something her world had forgotten. Kindness. The small purifier outside his ship quietly pulled water from the dry air. It wasn't fast, but it worked. Drops gathered in a clean container. Every few minutes there was enough to drink. Nira had never seen such a machine. On Varela, only the water lords had technology like that, and they never shared it. She sat. Inside the ship, near a window, the air was cool. The walls were silver and smooth. Strange lights blinked softly. It was the first time in her life she had felt comfort. Daniel stood nearby, checking a screen. How far is your village? He asked. Not too far, Nira answered. Maybe half a day on foot, if we walk fast. Can people there carry water? Can they protect the machine? Nira thought about it. Her village was small. The people were kind, but weak from hunger and thirst. They had no weapons, no tools, just hope. We will try, she said. If they know someone wants to help, they will do everything. Daniel nodded. Then we'll go tomorrow morning. I'll help carry the purifier. Nira looked at him, surprised. Why are you helping me? Daniel looked at her and smiled. Because you needed help. And because I can. Nira didn't understand it. On Varela, no one helped unless they got something in return. Everything was a deal. A trade, but Daniel. He gave without asking. That night, Nira slept inside the ship. It was the best sleep she'd had in years. No wind, no cold sand, no fear, just peace. The next morning, they set out. Daniel carried the purifier in a case on his back. Nira walked beside him. The sun was hot, but she didn't feel weak. She had saved water from the night before and shared a meal with Daniel, strange food from Earth that tasted better than anything she remembered. They walked for hours. Passing dry rocks and broken plants, the land looked dead. But as they moved, Nira began to talk. She told Daniel about her people, about the great lake that had dried up when she was a child, about the day her father went to trade and never came back, about the water lordsmen with guns and machines who ruled over everyone. Daniel listened quietly. He didn't interrupt. He didn't ask foolish questions. He just listened. After a while he spoke. On Earth, long ago, there were wars over water too. People fought and died for it. But then we learned how to collect and clean it. We learned how to share. Do people still fight? Nira asked. Sometimes, Daniel said. But not for water, not like this. She looked ahead. Maybe one day Varela will change too. Daniel looked at the sun and wiped sweat from his forehead. Maybe that change starts with one purifier. And one brave woman. As the sun began to set, the village came into view. It wasn't much, just small huts made from stone and dry wood. There were no lights, no machines. Just tired people sitting. In the shade, their faces thin and eyes empty, children saw Nira and ran to her. She smiled and waved. One of them, a small boy with short hair, hugged her tightly. "You're back," he said. "Did you find water?" "I found something better," she said. People gathered quickly. Everyone looked at Daniel with fear and confusion. They had never seen a human before. They whispered to each other. Nir raised her voice. "He's not here to hurt us. He gave me water." "He wants to help?" A few villagers stepped back. One of the older men frowned. "Help? Nothing is free. Who is he?" Daniel stepped forward and bowed slightly. "My name is Daniel. I'm from Earth. I brought a machine. It makes water from the air." The crowd murmured. Some laughed in disbelief. Others looked angry. "Air has no water," said a woman. "You're playing tricks." Nira held up the small bottle. "This is real. I drank it. I saw it." Daniel placed the purifier on the ground. He pressed a button. The machine began to hum. A small light turned green. After a few minutes, drops began to form. Gasps filled the air. Daniel held out a fresh cup and handed it to an old woman with shaking hands. She sipped it slowly, then cried. "It's water," she whispered. The crowd moved closer. Eyes wide, hearts open, children reached out their hands. Mothers held babies close. Men looked at each other with stunned faces. Daniel looked around. "This is just one machine. It can help a little, but if we work together, we can make more. I can teach you." The village elder stepped forward again. His voice was calm now. "You really want nothing in return?" Daniel shook his head. "I only ask that you use this to help each other. Don't let it become another tool for control," the elder nodded. "Then you are welcome here, Daniel of Earth." That night the village celebrated. It wasn't a grand party. They had little to offer. But they made a fire and shared what they had. Some dried roots, a few old fruits, and smiles. Real smiles. Daniel sat with Nira near the fire. "Thank you," she said. He looked at the stars. "No need to thank me. It's just the right thing to do." Nira watched the children play near the machine. Drops of water fell slowly into cups. She saw something in their faces that she hadn't seen in years. Joy. She turned to Daniel. "What will you do next?" "I'll stay for a while. Help build more purifiers. Show your people how to fix them." "And after that?" he shrugged. "Go to the next world that needs help. You could stay longer." Daniel smiled. "Maybe I will." In the distance, the desert wind whispered. But in the village, for the first time in many years, there was laughter, not because someone gave them water, but because someone showed them they were worth saving. The sun rose slowly over the village. Its light touched the ground gently, not with heat, but with a promise of a new day. For the first time in years, the people of Nira's village woke up with smiles. They had water. Children ran around with cups in their hands, waiting for the purifier to drop more. Elders sat in the shade, drinking slowly. Mothers used the water to wash their babies. The machine Daniel brought had already changed everything. Nira stood near the purifier, her eyes wide with amazement. Just a few days ago, she had been walking alone in the desert, nearly dying of thirst. Now, her village had hope. Daniel stepped out of his ship, stretching his arms. "Morning," he said with a smile. "Morning," Nira replied. "They love the machine." "I can see that," he said, "but it's not enough. One machine can't save everyone." Nira looked up. "Then what can we do?" Daniel picked up a small box from the ground. "We build more, and we teach others to do the same." By noon, a small group of villagers had gathered around Daniel. They were curious and ready to learn. Daniel opened the box and pulled out tools. He placed another device on the ground, a smaller version of the purifier. "This is a basic model," Daniel explained. "It can make less water, but it's easier to build. You can use parts from broken machines, old radios, anything that can carry power." The villagers listened carefully. Nira translated where needed. Daniel showed them how the wires connected, how the air filter worked, and how to clean it. He gave each person a simple job: cutting, connecting, checking power. They worked all day. When the second purifier was finished, it made water just like the first. The villagers clapped and cheered. Nira looked at Daniel. "You just gave us the power to survive." Daniel shook his head. No, I showed you the way. You're the ones doing the real work. In the following days, the village changed quickly. More purifiers were built. People shared parts. They worked together like a strong family. Even nearby, villagers came after hearing the news. At first, they didn't believe it. Free water sounded like a lie. But when they saw the machines with their own eyes, they believed. Daniel helped each group. He fixed broken tools, gave simple blueprints, and shared food and water. He didn't ask for anything in return, but not everyone was happy. Far across the desert, in a tall stone tower, a man watched the news through a cracked screen. He wore black armor and had sharp eyes. His name was Varn, one of the water lords. He ruled several villages by selling water at high prices. His guards carried weapons. His tanks were full. For years he grew rich while others suffered. Now he heard rumors of a strange man from the stars giving water for free. That man had a machine one that made water from air. Varn's face twisted with anger. If the people stop buying, I lose power, he growled. One of his guards nodded. The machine is real. We saw it. The human walks with the girl named Nira. Varn slammed his fist on the table. Then we stop them. Burn the machines. Bring me the human. Back in the village, Nira and Daniel were sitting under the stars. The night was cool. Children laughed near the purifier. A few young men practiced, using tools Daniel had given them. This feels like a dream, Nira said. Daniel looked up at the sky. Sometimes the best dreams are the ones we build together. Nira turned to him. What was Earth like? Daniel smiled. Beautiful. Blue oceans, green forests. We had our problems, but we also had people who cared. That's how we survived, by helping each other. We never had that here, Nira said, but maybe now we can. She looked at him closely. Do all humans help like you? Daniel laughed softly. Not all, but many try, and that's what matters. Suddenly a sound broke the peace, a loud thud in the distance. Then a voice shouted, Fire! Smoke rose near the edge of the village. People screamed. Daniel and Nira jumped to their feet and ran toward the noise. 3 guards wearing black armor were kicking over one of the new purifiers. Flames spread across a wooden hut. A child cried nearby. Daniel stepped in front of the guards. Stop! One guard raised his weapon. You don't belong here, off-worlder. Daniel pulled a small device from his belt and pressed a button. A strong flash of light burst from it, blinding the guards. In seconds they fell to the ground, dazed. The villagers gathered, scared but angry. They had worked so hard. Now someone had attacked their peace. Nira helped the child while others put out the fire. Daniel turned to the crowd. We need to be ready. They'll come again. Later that night, the elders met in a circle. Nira, Daniel, and some of the young villagers were there too. We can't fight them, said one elder. They have weapons, but we have water now, said a young man. We can defend it, Daniel stood. You don't have to become soldiers, but you must protect what you've built. I'll help you. He showed them a map. We can move the purifiers, hide them underground. Use solar power to keep them running, and I'll leave a few defense tools behind. The villagers agreed. The next few days were full of hard work again, but this time they built in secret. They placed the machines inside caves and under old buildings. They set up warning systems. Daniel taught them how to protect without violence. Defense is not attack, he said. It's standing for what is right. One evening, as the sky turned pink, Nira stood beside Daniel on a hill. Below them, the village lights were soft. Laughter echoed once again. Why did you do all this? She asked. Daniel looked at her. Because someone had to. And because you reminded me that one act of kindness can grow into something much bigger. She smiled. You gave us water. But more than that, you gave us strength. He nodded. And now it belongs to you. The far away, Varn prepared more guards. His eyes were cold. This human thinks he can change Varela? He said, then let him see what power truly means. The storm was coming. But Nira's village was no longer afraid, because this time they had more than water. They had each other, and they had hope. The night was dark and quiet. A calm silence covered the village like a soft blanket. But deep in the shadows, something was moving. Varn's guards came in silence, dressed in black armor. Their weapons glowed faintly. They had come to destroy. Everything Daniel and Nira had built. Nira awoke suddenly. She had a bad feeling. The village was asleep, but her heart beat fast. She looked outside the small window and saw shadows moving near the edge of the trees. She woke Daniel quietly. "They are coming," Daniel nodded and stood up. "We must warn the others." Together they ran to the hidden machines, checking each one. The villagers gathered quickly, their faces tired but ready. Daniel spoke softly but firmly. "Remember, we do not want war, but we will protect what is ours. Stay calm, follow the plan." Nira looked around and saw hope in everyone's eyes. They were ready to fight, not just for water, but for a future. The guards moved fast. They didn't expect the villagers to be ready. As soon as the first shadow stepped into the village, alarms sounded. Hidden solar-powered lights turned on. Shining bright white, young men and women stood with simple but strong tools, nets, ropes, and devices Daniel had given them. They didn't have weapons like the guards, but they had courage and will. The first guards stumbled as traps caught their feet. Nets flew and tied their legs. The villagers moved quickly, working as one. Daniel used a small device to send out a loud pulse that disabled the guards' weapons for a moment. The guards growled in anger, but the village had time to push them back. Nira ran between the groups, helping where she could. She saw a guard reaching for a child and quickly pushed him away. The child screamed but was safe. Varn was watching from a distance, his face dark with rage. "Send the rest," he ordered. "Destroy them all." More guards arrived, stronger and better armed. But the villagers did not give up. Daniel helped coordinate the defense. He had studied Earth's old stories about battles where courage mattered more than weapons. "Hold your ground," he shouted. "We fight with heart." The villagers shouted back. They fought not just for themselves, but for their children and their future. The battle lasted for hours. The desert air was filled with shouts and the sound of crashing nets. Fires started from broken lamps but were quickly put out by the villagers. With the water they had saved, Nira found herself face to face with one guard. He raised his weapon, but she used a rope to trip him. He fell with a heavy thud. "You can't take our water," she yelled. "This is our home." The guard struggled but couldn't break free. Nira's heart pounded. She saw Daniel helping another group trap a guard with a net. Slowly, the guards lost their strength. They realized the villagers were not weak. They were strong because they believed in something better. At dawn, the fight ended. The remaining guards ran back into the desert, defeated. The village was safe for now. The villagers cheered. They were tired, but their faces were bright with joy. Daniel looked around, proud. "You did this, not me," Nira smiled. "We did it together, but the fight had cost them. Some machines were broken. Some people hurt. Daniel and the villagers worked quickly to repair the purifiers. The water still flowed, and with it, hope. Days passed, and the village began to heal. Nira walked through the streets, helping where she could. The children played near the water machines. The elders told stories about the battle. "We fought for something important," said one elder. "Not just water, but freedom." Daniel spoke to the village. "This is only the beginning. Varn will not stop, but you have shown strength. Together you can protect your future." Nira thought about the man in the stone tower, angry and watching. But she no longer feared him. The people had changed. "We will be ready," she said. "No more fear." One afternoon, a small group of traders arrived. They brought news from other villages. Some had heard of the purifiers and wanted help. Daniel smiled. "Then it's time we share," Nira nodded. "We will teach them what we have learned." Together they prepared to travel. Daniel would help bring more purifiers. Nira would lead the people, strong and brave. The desert was still harsh. The nights were cold. But the village was alive with hope. That night, under the stars, Nira and Daniel sat quietly. You changed everything, she said softly. Daniel looked at her. You changed everything. I only showed the way. Nira smiled, feeling the power of those words. The desert wind whispered through the trees. Tomorrow was a new day, and the fight for water and freedom was far from over. The sun rose high, painting the desert sky with soft orange and pink colors. Nira stood on a small hill outside the village. Her eyes looked far into the distance, where the desert met the horizon. A gentle breeze touched her face. The village below was waking up. Children's laughter filled the air. The water purifiers worked quietly, giving life to the land. Nira's heart was full. The journey had been long and hard, but now something new was growing here. Hope. Daniel joined her on the hill, carrying a small bag of tools. He smiled at her. We're ready, he said. Nira nodded. Ready for what? To take this gift beyond the desert. To bring water and hope to others, Daniel answered. Nira's eyes sparkled. Others need it just like we did. Daniel looked at the village one last time, and they will get it. That day, the villagers gathered for a meeting. Daniel explained the plan. They would build more purifiers, teach nearby villages to make their own, and protect these machines from those who wanted to destroy hope. Nira stood proudly and spoke to her people. We have seen how small kindness can change everything. We have fought together. Now we will share what we have learned. The crowd cheered as the days passed. Teams of villagers prepared for the journey. They packed tools, water, and supplies. Daniel taught them how to fix and build purifiers. Nira trained young men and women to be watchful and brave. Before leaving, Nira visited the small garden near her home. She touched a flower growing by the water. It was the first flower to bloom in years. This is just the beginning, she whispered. The group traveled through the desert, guided by the stars and Daniel's maps. They reached villages where people were thirsty and tired. At first, the villagers were afraid to trust strangers, but when they saw the machines making water, their faces lit up. Nira and Daniel taught them how to build purifiers using simple parts. They shared tools and hope. Slowly, new communities learned to survive. Meanwhile, Varn was furious. His power was slipping. More villages were learning to make water, and his control was breaking. He sent more guards to stop the spread of the purifiers. But the people were ready. They moved machines underground, hid their plans, and helped each other. Nira and Daniel heard stories of small victories everywhere they went. The desert was changing. One night, as the group camped under the stars, Nira looked at Daniel. Why? Do you do this? Why help strangers? Daniel smiled softly. Because I believe no one should suffer for something as simple as water. Because kindness is the strongest power, Nira nodded. I want to believe that too. Daniel looked at the sky. You already do. Back in the desert, the sun rose again. The villages were alive with life. Water flowed. Children played. Gardens grew. Nira knew there would be challenges ahead. But she was no longer afraid. She had learned something important. When people come together, hope can never be destroyed. Years later, the desert was no longer a place of thirst. It was a place of life. The machines Daniel gave had spread across the land. People worked together, shared, and protected their future. Nira looked at the sky. Feeling proud, she remembered the day when water was just a dream. Now it was a gift. They shared freely. The story of the human who gave water without asking became a legend. It was a story of kindness, strength, and hope, a story that reminded everyone sometimes the greatest power is simply to give.